Alright, I'm going to use these rooms as uh, a helper for me to try to explain my toolkit changes for 4.0, um, and try to see if I can explain for some people who haven't seen this before, and so you can get an understanding of what my RPG engine toolkit is. I'm not the best at explaining things, and I actually have performance anxiety a little bit, so I'm going to try to see if I can get through this without sounding like a rambling fool. Um, so let's go. Alright. So if you don't know already, my RPG Engine Toolkit is a database-driven solution for trying to make a RPG. It's something that I started a long time ago with just trying to figure out how to do this in general, from reading several books to being a fan of RPG Maker to, you know, trying to understand everything that's needed for many different types of RPGs and trying to make something that will help me build any type, from even a 3D RPG to a 2D RPG. And this solution is my results of years of learning and trial and error. Um, the toolkit is separated into a database manager, which houses like all the information for your RPG, to event files that have the um, event stack of information. So, for example, if you have a quest that tells you, there's an NPC that tells you to go over here and do this item, take this over there. All that information will be inside of event files with stacked information, with event IDs that trigger other events in general. And then you have the blueprint side, which I will mostly be talking about today, which is everything that is used with the database to be able to bring your world to life, to be able to build the different elements that you would need for your game. Um, this just explains all the little different objects that I have that help build the world, from the PC object that I'm using right now to the AI monsters, to the event objects, to interactive objects, to the actual behavior, the turn-based system that I have now versus the action system that I had before, to the UI system that I have built in to be able to bring in, just implementation of certain things that you would need to help make your RPG. And hopefully all these examples you can take, build upon, on top of, and make what you need to make your life easier. Um, so for the PC Hero is now just a collection of functionality. Before, it was something that actually had character movement and things like that built into the actual hero. But people wanted the ability to be able to use their current operating functional character with the system. So I've stripped all of the things that have to do with movement out, operations out, and I just have PC Hero with a short list of callbacks that you need to put inside of your main actor to be able to make it work within the actual toolkit. Um, and the character that I'm actually using right now is a base character that is attached to the PC Hero to be able to give an example of how that would be done. So you can implement your character however you want. Um, an actor is actually made of different elements. So you have the actor data that lists all the character mesh that you can see right here. For morph data to be able to bring up information for your character's emotions and stuff like that. To things that's used in dialogues and battle for, image connection, image list, emotion icons, things like that. You have the class data that has everything that for your specific class type. So this is a warrior type right now. He has everything that he needs in it for walking, sneaking, battle list animations, skill list animations, um, and both turn-based and action combo list are all defined within that one blueprint object. You have weapon data. Weapon data has information about what the mesh will look like. If it's a skeletal mesh, if it's a regular static mesh, where on the body will it mount? Where on the body will you retrieve it from when you actually are in attack mode? All that information is defined in the actual weapon data. And now I actually have augmented slots that's in there to tell, hey, these are your caps on augments. If it doesn't have any slots to be able to augment any kind of skill or something into the weapon, you can set it to 0, and then it'll tell the system that, hey, I don't have anything here that I can put a slot in, so I can't add anything to this weapon. We go over to NPCs. We have our NPC objects, which are generated. More on that later. The NPC objects are ones that either just fill your world with movable characters doing different things, or interactive objects and characters that you need to be able to progress story or build your world and things like that. You have the AI monsters, which are used to fill your world with enemies, trigger battles and things like that. Of course, I have a turn-based mob for the turn-based systems that are spawned when you actually go into battle. You got different interactive objects for, I can't spell resource here, but I'm not the best speller in the world, but they have resource collection points, treasure chests, event triggers that can be, placed into your world. And then you have the animation master. If I probably can show this real quick. This is something that I created because I was tired of making an animation object with the same logic, with the same everything for every character. Even with the binding and remapping of characters, it was too much. It was for all the different things that I needed to do. If the logic was the same, why couldn't I just plug in the animations that's needed for that certain class, that certain monster, that certain actor inside a single master for animation? So this is my solution here. Everything is linked through the source pawn, and it grabs the actual class information that we just talked about before to actually map in the animations that you need for any of your characters. So you can make your movement logic here. You can change this however you want, and then have everyone that you want to be able to use this main master. Mind you, if for some reason you do want to have things a little bit different, you can still make another base class animation blueprint, but at least that main modular object can be used with different characters and classes. So even right here for your regular walking information, all that's coming from the actual class object that's being mapped to your normal idle, that's blending in between a rest mode or a normal idle if you have the need to have an idle animation happen after you've done an extended period of rest. But this was just my easy solution for having multiple things. Now, mind you, I do have more than just 3 here, but I've only implemented 3 so far. But I do have different move modes for swimming, for riding a vehicle, things like that. And then you can just start adding this in here, so when you change your movement state in the actual character, you can automatically move over to the different movement states in the animation blueprint. That one was actually hard to come up with because I just needed a solution and had to find some way without having 3 million animation blueprint logics, where if I wanted to change something, I would have to go and change 30 other animations just to be able to get the new functionality in. Continuing from that, we have interaction objects that I talked about before. I'm going the wrong way. Sorry about that. I'm getting anxiety as I speak. But let's see if I can keep this on course, not make this boring. So we have NPC objects. NPC objects have different move modes and different settings for actual objects. So these are stationary NPCs, which will execute an animation every interval that's configurable, and the animation is configurable per NPC that you put down onto the map. NPCs are modular objects, meaning that an NPC is actually generated from a collection of things. So if I can come over here, this is the definition of a single type of NPC. So let's say that this is a young man character. So I can have, this is the wrong one. Here we go. So for my young man character, I can have multiple different actor-based meshes for a young character, a young male character, that it will randomly select this character from a list of different NPC characters, go in here, randomly select a actor configuration, and then with those actor configurations, I can come down here and specify clothing layers. So I can have a full body outfit, a top, a bottom, shoes, and hair, all modulated and randomly picked and randomly generated with the actual actor. Along with that, I can have morph data for those different actors. So if for some reason, you have different body sliders for like overweight, extremely thin, big arms, big head, things like that, or even just like facial morphs that you have different types to be able to make your randomly generated NPC look different. You can set that all up in here, and then when it generates, it's going to randomly look through your morphs and your morph family to be able to generate a unique NPC. And this is just for a single type, because you can have multiple of these, which defines anything from an elder to a child, and you can manually generate an NPC based on that. And right now I only have these two types, which is this little modification of the epic skeleton, which is, I guess I call him Cyclops or whatever, punk Cyclops, I guess. But excuse me. But along with that, you have material parameters and sections that can be used to be able to generate multiple different NPC types. This is an example of that in actual usage, even though these aren't the best of characters, but for the test purposes it works. For all the modularness for like colors and things like that, this is actually changed in 4.0. I now have the ability to generate a left and right eye color. Skin tone is done better. I have a main color and accent color to be able to put light colors together. Right now I'm actually calculating it based on the definition of how accent colors work with the opposite end of the color circle. But I use this so I wouldn't at least have randomness that made characters complete, like, what's the word, tacky, I guess, and try to have a better definition of like color matching, especially since it's random. These color lists can actually be built by you manually in the actual blueprint. So if you don't want to use the calculated modular colors, you can have specific main colors and accent colors for your specific characters, so that way when it generates a random color, it's something within your palette. Same thing with the hair colors. Right now, I go through the entire rainbow. You may just want blacks and browns and um, brunettes, redhead, things like that. Um, but all of that is here for you to customize, for you to change and do whatever you need to do with it. For NPCs, I have path following settings for NPCs as well, just like the stationary ones that's over there that just plays an animation and they stand still. You may have ones that you want to have on a path, or ones that just randomly move around. Now, for wandering NPCs, also have the ability to make interaction objects, and those are just objects that the NPC can find around the world, go up to, and then the object would tell excuse me, the object would tell the NPC how it should interact with it. So this couch has 3 different mount points. It has a interaction node that tells you, hey, come up to it. When you get there, transport to, the mount place, play your mounting animation, sit there and idle for however many seconds, and then after that, play your unmount animation, and then move on to your next random location, which this NPC is doing currently. So now we have events. All these events are just little pieces of things that can be put together to make a quest. So we can remove our character. So now all we have is the secondary character that's in our party. I can add him back. And now I can switch back and forth between the 2 characters. I can play a movie. So if you have a cut scene that's pre-rendered and things like that, you can actually play that over top of an event, or lead into it from an event, or trigger an event after that has actually happened. Along with the events, I actually have character customization, which is shown here as well with an actual character model. It looks better than Mr. Cyclops here, but again, I made it just so I can have the ability to have an example of the different color parts. So I can modify the character's height, I can modify the skin color, the hair color for the base and accents. I can have, if this character had morphs, I could change the actual morphs and save that information out. Same thing with the eye shapes, different pupil sizes, colors. All of these are here for example. If your character, whatever morphs your character has, you can define those in the morph chart and actually be able to just dynamically save all that information to the database. So that way, anytime you load your character, you can load your character customization along with it. So I can randomize it right now. So I'm just going to hit square a little bit. I'll go with that. So I just applied that. I can do the same thing to my secondary character. Make them a little short. And mind you, the difference in color and actual effect that's happening on here is this character only has materials on it for clothing. So it doesn't have any kind of eye information. There's no hair information on this character. The only thing that it has basically for material is main clothing and accent color for the little center U symbol. So that's why that's the only thing that's changing on here outside of the height. So apply those settings. Same thing with this character. He has hair, he has clothing section, he has actual skin section and all that information. Technical difficulties. I have to figure out what went wrong there, but let me see if I can get back to where we were real quick. As you can tell, I'm still trying to make sure that everything is working fully optimal. I actually don't know what locked up there. That was kind of weird. I ran out of stamina. But let's see if I can get back here to the character creation. I'll go with that. And I'll go with that and then exit out. So I have my different character customizations. They're here, they're active, but they won't be saved until I actually save my game. So along with the other events, let me show this real quick. You can obtain items, you can remove items, you can gain money, as well as remove money. You can gain EXP. There's a detection for leveling up that can be triggered with whatever thing you wanted to. That was just an example I had. You have different audios that you can do in the system. You can trigger the different levels of audio. You can even change the environment mood with events. Let's see. You change the time of day. You have your store items, well, store NPCs. So I can go here, buy items, which also shows like all the different implementations for your interfaces. Also have it here where you can actually see like the difference in armor levels. You can go in, you can buy, you can sell. Those are the different 4 types. So you have inside the system, I have items, I have armor, weapons, and resources, and those are different storefronts that you can have with any kind of configured item list that you want. So you can, on the database manager, you can query all the items, add what items you want to go into what store event, and then bind that to a NPC character to be able to talk to bring up that city's inventory. You also have an inn where I can rest. It does a check for whether your character is alive or dead, and if you have dead characters, then they'll charge you more. I don't have enough money to actually go to sleep, but I can come in here, I can save. I still have breakpoints that I should have removed. But you have, right now I only have 9 slots, but you can change that. You can go in here, save your information, and it'll save all the current information to the database, including my current character customization. Weather I don't have implemented, but I do have a trigger in there, so if you wanted to have some kind of callback to your weather system, you can easily bind to the RPG states and wait for the event trigger to trigger your bind to be able to say, okay, now I should switch my weather system to this. Same thing for like the environmental time. Like you don't have to use my RPG Sky anymore. Like it's not directly tied to the system. It pretty much looks at the main system to find out what time it is, and it also has a trigger in it to be able to do a not a trigger but a event dispatch that can be bound by any system to be able to say, hey, the time is now this, hey, we're moving this over to this, pretty much. This is just me going over like modifications to the system. This shows off the fact that I did have a working working action RPG input battle system, and it worked pretty well. It felt pretty good. I was able to do different combos or string different things together. I had dodge abilities and things like that wrapped into the system, and it felt good. I just wanted to change my system to turn-based, so I left the code in there for those who wanted to actually make an action RPG with button combos and things like that. So none of the information and trials and tribulations I went through is lost. A person can pick it up and make their own thing. As well as the combo skills that I have now. I pretty much tried to find a way to be able to come in and set up different skills, different attacks within the animation itself. Excuse me. And I wanted the ability to come in and just set definitions for even forward movement, like you can see here, so you can configure how forward your character moves when they do a slash. Where in here you can actually detect the beginning and ending of a combo, so that way if you have a for an action system, if you have a input buffer that has stack commands, once you get to the part in the animation where you want the next combo to trigger, you can just look at your input stack, get the next combo, and pretty much trigger it. So I'm trying to think more than I can talk right now, but in general, the actions and configurations for an actual skill can be brought together with many of the different animation notifiers that I've created for both action and the actual turn-based system, to give you the ability to change so much about your actual animation that's going on. So that way, like I said before, you can have a zone that triggers the next combo. You can have a portion in the animation that completely cancels out a combo. You can have that layered with all the damage points. So if you have a fire breathing animation, so that way every frame you can have a animation, you can have a event trigger for calculating damage to an enemy if they're within the area. You could have at different parts in a weapon strike that does specific damage to an enemy. You can define whether you want it to be a cone damage, whether you want it to be a line damage, or if you want to have some other kind of damage type or calculation, you can put that in here as well. You can specify where you want a certain part of an animation to have less damage or more damage, depending on how the animation is. And this builds on top of what you already configured for the skill's base definition. So if you say this skill has a power of 200, and then inside of it you have the first part of the hit be 50% of that 200, and the other hit be 150 times the power of that 200, you can define that here within the actual animation of that skill. Let's see, that goes over menus, that talks about event sequences, turn-based system. Let's see, I guess this is all about battles. So pretty much in the turn-based system, what I have now, which can also be used for the action system, you have a battle arena transfer. Around this entire area right now, I have a block of space, which is a giant event trigger that tells you what your battle arena is going to be. So it's somewhere in here I have a level stream that will define, I have a level stream that only houses the battle area for battles. So that way when you transition to a battle, you can actually unload the previous area that you're currently in, so you can get some resources back, so you can spawn the monsters in the battle area and have your battle there. Once that's done, it can unload the battle arena and load you back into your area where you just returned from. So whatever level streaming area that is, you can do that there. Inside it, you can list um, what level stream data you want to unload when you go into battle. You can also specify what other level streams you want to load up when you go into battle. So that way you can performance balance and have that. You can performance balance without trying to go to load a whole new level or load too many things into your map where everything will start slowing down. Um, Again, the turn-based manager is just a small little blueprint that monitors the actual battle. So it will, once it's spawned, that will be the area. It will have a handle to the area that you're battling in. It will have a handle to the players, the monsters that need to be spawned for that fight. It'll do things like item collection for every time you kill an enemy. It will get a list of all the items and drops and information to be able to tally at the end of the battle. It's not complicated. It's just a little thing that helps put logic that you need for actual battle within its, the realm of what it needs to be, instead of putting it everywhere. Instead of putting everything inside of like the player object or something like that, you can have this one little confined compartment of functionality. Along with that, like you can see in the video, I have implemented in the turn-based system the ability to do like preemptive strikes, or you can get ambushed if you're attacked from behind. I have it, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, the a Grundia S active battle system where there's a wait timer. You go from a wait zone to an attack zone for fights. I have a Legend of Legaia inspired combo builder, I guess you can call it, for being able to build certain attack streams, building certain linking like attacks to combos, just something to give you a little bit of strategy for the actual battle. I'll show more of that in the second part of the example whenever I get there, because right now this is just like the base examples of everything in the system. And the second half would be more of triggering a quests, triggering battles, doing actual battles, an example of swimming, an example of a boss battle via events. But more of the information for the actual battle system is here. I have field actions implemented, which are pretty much just things that you can use for a character to be able to have that character, or have a specific character or class be able to do stuff in the world. Kind of like Wild Arms, where you could use each of the characters with their special abilities to be able to do something in the environment, for solving puzzles, just little things, just add a little bit more excitement or thought to the overworld. I added sneaking, and eventually I'll add proning, but right now I just have sneaking implemented to where you can sneak around and hide behind objects so the enemies can't see you. I also have a diversion whistle. So what that will do is when I whistle, the enemy could hear that. They know where the whistle came from, so they'll try to investigate the area. They're not alerted, so they're going to walk calmly over to the area to investigate. But you can use that to lure enemies into places. You can also use it to lure enemies away from other enemies, since when you get in battle, it will gather all the enemy objects in the area and combine their monster groups definition into what would be used in the actual battle system when it spawns the monsters. So if you have too many monsters clustered together and you fight them all, it could be overwhelming for your situation, and you'll probably die. So I added the whistle to be able to pull enemies away from each other so you can have more controlled battles. Um, I still have the hoverboard, which is here, which still needs more tweaking, but I still added it to the system to be able to play around with. Um, let's see. I actually have a save point implemented now. So before, doing a save point was kind of built into the NPCs. It wasn't the best in the world to do it inside of an NPC because you had too much overblown code that was not needed for a simple object, which is why I ripped everything from NPCs and actually placed them into the actual into an actual interaction object. So that way it's lighter on the system. It doesn't have nearly anything that characters would have. It's just a regular pawn with the functionality that you need for interacting with different objects. So here I actually have two different objects here. So you have a treasure chest, which is currently locked because it says you need a plasma, which is over here inside of here. And with these as well, I made it to where interaction points could have events. So if, for instance, if I go in and get this actual plasma, it's been added to my inventory, and I go over to the treasure chest. When I open the treasure chest, I'll have an event of an explosion sound, should I say, that will play shortly after I open the treasure chest. What you can easily do is have the opening of a treasure chest trigger the enabling of another event somewhere in the world. So after I open this chest, then suddenly, you know, the event trigger for a monster ambush or the continuing of a storyline or something could be triggered from a basic interaction object. And another thing is this resource point that was right here was also set up as a singleton. What that is means that it's in the database, it's saved so that way it will only appear once, and once you open it, it should never appear again. This makes it to where you can have one-off items that a person could get versus a treasure chest that was spawned every time you reload your map. So if I save here, and I'm actually going to load back up. So now that I just loaded my save, if I come over here, the treasure chest is still here, but the resource point isn't. The treasure chest has already been set to always be here, and anytime I load the map, it will respawn. Versus the one-off resource point that I have here that was saved in the database, and once it's open, and it won't return. And you can do that per interaction object. You can all you have to do is just click the register database toggle that's on the actual blueprint, and it'll save it to the database with a unique ID. So if I load to my previous data, so now this is before I went and opened the treasure chest. So now if I go down to the resource, I should be able to see the fact that my resource point should still be there. I should be able to use it, and I should be able to open the treasure chest with it. So I got my plasma. And now I can open the treasure chest again. And that's pretty much it for right now for the examples. In this area over here, I'm going to have an event trigger that's right here. You can't see it, but it's an event trigger that I'm inside of. It's not configured for anything, but this is going to be the start of a sequence that will lead me into an enemy area that I can sneak through or battle enemies. I'll have another area to where an ambush will happen. That can also lead into another area where I can teleport to the actual demo city that shows off the rest of the other tools to help make your game easier if you want to use those tools. But I think I've rambled enough for right now. I don't think that I've missed much of anything. Outside of, okay, I can show in the inventory. So I changed inventory and I made it to at least be more presentable. All your items are here with the detailed information for them. I changed the equipment to be a little bit lighter and a little bit more straightforward. I can go in here, change items. I have it to where it'll still do the item comparison for armor. I don't have an implementation for actually adding modifications and boosts to your inventory. I'll see if I can add that, but I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to do it for my game in general. And when I do figure that out, I'll try to see if I can update the demo with that information. I'm also going to I already have in the base system where you can set your AI, your battle AI. Right now I have everything set to manual for the battle system, so you have to put in the input for every character, but I will have it to where you can set up the automatic AI based on certain parameters. I have it to where you can mark a character as an assist character, so that way the AI will always attack whatever that specific AI is attacking already, and give you better, I guess, better control of how the automatic AI will operate in battle. I still have the Hunter's Grid, which is just my representation of a height-based map to where you can look around and see all the different things on the map. I have the option system still in here to where you can save things, you can do quick save, quick loads, change the different underlying settings for the video settings. As you saw before with the item store, I have a temporary interface that you can use and modify to do your store however you want, or if you want to use that, have at it. I've tried to have as many example content that I could to be able to actually make a actual game. As I said before, this toolkit isn't a make game button, but I am trying to make it as close as possible to one without having too much issue. That's a bug. But but hopefully I have enough things in here that people can use it to make this easier. Because when I started off, I didn't know anything. And RPGs seemed like an impossible thing for me to do. And now it seems more than possible for me to do with all these different tools, with all these different things. And especially more with other people's feedback, things that they wanted to see, things that I wanted to see happen that took a lot of research, took a lot of little development, took a lot of testing. But hopefully in the next preview I can show you a lot more with the battle system, with how, you know, an event flow will actually work. A lot more than the first example kit that I had. I want to have something that feels like it's an actual story, mini story that you're going through with this, and hopefully I can bring that to you in the next video. If there's any questions, leave them in the comments. Hopefully I didn't sound like a rambling idiot, and more to come, I guess.